Well, hey everybody. Welcome to the finale episode of the Dragonfly Paradigm Lunchtime Book Club. We have made it all the way through What Happened to You by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey. And it's been a journey, I think, certainly for me, and I hope for you as well. Um, Before we get into it, though, I just wanted to take a moment and say thank you for joining me each and every week on the journey that has been reading this incredible book. And at least for me, it's been wonderful on two fronts. The first, reading this book and doing it with you all, having our own little virtual book club here has just been a wonderful gift to share in your takeaways and responses, and I hope some of my reflections have maybe resonated with you as well. But also, and maybe even more so, is doing this, first off, the live videos that were technically glitchy, but still fun. And now for these pre-recorded videos, it really made me confront a pretty deep-held self-limiting belief. Being born, excuse me, with a bilateral cleft lip and palate, it's hard to really, at least for me, to put myself out there in this way. And when it comes right down to it, I was always resistant to be on video of any kind because I really just didn't think I was pretty enough. And it sounds, in a way ridiculous when you say it out loud because, just do it, Vicky. Just put yourself out there. But it's really hard, certainly for someone growing up as I did with a cleft defect and all of that, emotional trauma that I've shared about over these past 10 weeks, that goes along with that. So that has really been, the biggest gift for me because, it's one thing to take pictures of yourself and you take your selfies, you have them in your photo album, but they're yours, right? It's a whole other thing, at least for me, to record a video and upload it to the internet and essentially open myself up for, comments. And it's just, another way, it's harder, to put yourself out there on a bigger scale like that than just keeping them home on your, your photo albums. But by committing to doing this book club each and every week, and also honoring my promise to you all to show up, to do the work, to put myself out there in the hopes that we can share an experience together. That really has been the greatest gift. And so I thank you all for being on this journey with me for that. So let's get into it. Let's get into the last chapter of What Happened to You, entitled What We Need Now. I think really my overall takeaway from this is just summed up in using a phrase that they used a couple of chapters back, that as a result of reading this book, I feel that I'm getting closer to achieving that post-traumatic wisdom that they talk about. Doing the work that was reading, reflecting, examining all of my past trauma was difficult. Some things I really didn't want to face, but as they say so many times, I had to show up for myself and do the work. I had to see the value in myself and honor myself enough to learn from the trauma and then reach at least the beginning stages of this post-traumatic wisdom. I hope that you all had some moments like that where you were able to show up for yourself, do some of the work, and learn that it's a process. and most importantly, to realize that it takes time. This is not, an overnight achievement. It's not a check the box and you move on and you're done and you never have to go back and think about whatever it was that has happened in your past. It takes time, and it also takes hope, I think. I like the overall feeling, at least of the last few chapters, because even though all the content is very heavy, it always left me feeling hopeful. And I think that, at least for me, when you have the hope that things can get better, we have the power to change our behavior if we have that hope, if we lead ourselves with grace and patience and show up and do the work. On page 286, Oprah shares a bit about a conversation she had with one of her interviewees just about this, about doing the work. And I'm going to read it to you now. This individual shared with Oprah that until you heal the wounds of your past, you will continue to bleed. The wounds will bleed through and stain your life through alcohol, through drugs, through sex, through overworking. You have to have the courage to pull out the wound and begin to heal yourself. This is the lesson I hope everyone carries with them from our conversation too. We must understand and heal the wounds of the past before we can move forward. It's such a fantastic passage and such a perfect way of, illustrating that if you don't deal with it at some point, it's going to start affecting your life in negative ways. I think when we're young, we have a lot more energy to actively work, to shove things down, to hide it away. But at least from my own experiences, I've gotten older and really kind of hit, I'd say, after 40, I just don't quite have the emotional strength to keep things down as much as I used to. I've noticed a bit more anxiety kind of at least presenting itself outward, whereas before I could just be very, stoic and hard. And now, maybe it's just because, we get that takes a lot of energy, and we don't have it as we get older. Our resources of that deplete a bit. So I'm noticing that it's harder to ignore it. So what's my my other option? Well, let's get down into it. Let's deal with it. Let's see what improvements I can make by doing so. I'm just, again, as some of these videos have been short and sweet, but I really don't think there needs to be a whole lot of fluff when we're talking about and using, Oprah's words here, because she's just so wonderfully elegant and eloquent in what she says and how she says it. But specifically on page 298 in the epilogue, I'm going to read to you a couple of different passages, and this is just where I'm going to leave you on this with Oprah's wonderful words. She says, "We cannot move forward if we're still holding on to the pain of the past. All of us who have been broken and scarred by trauma have the chance to turn those experiences into what Dr. Perry and I have been talking about, post-traumatic wisdom. Forgive yourself. Forgive them. Step out of your history and into the path of your future. When I stop clinging to what should or could have been and turn to what was and what could be, because what I know for sure is that everything that has happened to you was also happening for you. And all that time, in all those moments, you were building strength. What happened to you can be your power." It's just a wonderful way to end this book. I think a wonderful way to end our weekly sessions together. I do truly thank you for joining me each and every week, and I wish you all the best.